Red dot sight, perfect for CQB and fast target acquisition. Sig Sauer Romeo 5 red dot. The best bang for your buck. Hey everyone, welcome back to Sawtooth Tactical. I'm George and today we are talking optics. Specifically, the Sig Sauer Romeo 5 red dot, micro red dot in fact. But besides that, we're going to talk about sighting systems in general. What kind of options you have, what is the most practical way to set up your AR-15 style weapon, and I'll explain what I've done, what's worked very well for me, and what I believe works for the most of you out there. But before that, if you could please like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment at the end of the video. It only takes a second. It really helps out the algorithm and helps us build our channel. So that would mean a whole lot to me. And let's get started. So when it comes to an AR-15 rifle or an AR-15 pistol, you have a ton of options as far as optics and sighting systems go. Depending what your mission is or what your use for your weapon is going to be, will determine what kind of optic you want to use. Now, for me, the main thing is home defense. I am not necessarily trying to be a sniper. I'm not in the military, so I'm not really going to be engaging targets at a whole lot of distance, except for having fun at the range. So in order to set up my rifles in a way that makes sense for what they're designed for, the best option for me is a red dot. Now, a holographic will also do the same thing. In fact, it'll kind of do it even a little bit better. But one thing that I want our channel to stand for is being able to set up a system for yourself that is high value. Meaning that I want to go through products that are affordable but also very high quality. And so the optic that I've chosen for both of my AR-15s is the Sig Sauer Romeo 5 red dot. And this is a fantastic optic for the money. It's about $120, $130 depending where you find it. I got it on my Smith & Wesson M&P 15 first. It was actually the first piece of equipment that I got for this rifle. When this thing was just basic, bare bones, had the plastic handguard, A2 grip, M4 stock, just the basic rifle. I bought one of these before I got anything else. In fact, I bought it the day I bought the rifle because, as a lot of you probably know, most AR-15s these days sell what is known as optics ready. Optics ready is a fancy way of saying they don't come with sights. So you can shoot a rifle right out of the box as long as you have a sighting system. You need to have some way to be able to point and shoot that thing. Otherwise, you're just sending rounds out there, and lucky if you hit something. So you need a sighting system. All this other stuff on here, you don't need. It's really nice to have, and it makes the thing easier to shoot and a more effective weapon for sure. But the one thing you do need is an optic, or at least iron sights. So this is the first thing I got for this weapon, and after using it for about a year, I liked it so much I got the same optic on my next AR. And in fact, when I ordered this AR pistol from Palmetto State Armory, I ordered this optic at the same time. It actually came before the AR did, because I knew that I was going to need it, and I liked it so much. So we're going to talk about this Sig Romeo 5, but we're also going to talk about setting up your sighting system in general in a way that works for whatever your mission or your use for your weapon is going to be. So first, talking about the Sig Romeo 5. This red dot costs about 120 bucks generally. Sometimes you can find it a little cheaper. A lot of the time it's closer to 140, 150. But I got this one, I think it was 129. This is the one that's on my Palmetto State Armory AR pistol. The one that I got on my rifle, I got for 100 bucks. I got a deal on it the day that I bought the rifle. The gun store just happened to have one there that they had just bought from another guy who was upgrading his optic. And I was lucky to get that. I didn't know at the time that I was going to fall in love with this optic. But for 100 bucks, it seemed like a good deal, considering that it costs about 100 bucks for a set of iron sights. So having a red dot for about the same price, awesome deal. Now, some of the features of this red dot that are great, it's made out of aircraft grade aluminum. It's very sturdy. I have not treated them well. I use my weapons. I shoot them all the time. I throw them around. I'm running around, you know, they're freaking bouncing, whatever. And they have held up and they've held zero. So it's very solidly built. The way they lock up on your rail is solid. You know, as long as you torque it down to spec, it's gonna stay there and it's gonna hold zero. I've had both of these. I've had the one on my rifle for about a year. I've had the one on my AR pistol for about half that time, but I've put a ton of rounds downrange with this optic on. And with the AR pistol, most of those rounds were with a Echo binary trigger. So that's a lot of bumping and jarring on the thing, and they've held zero the whole time. So besides that, you get 10 brightness settings with this optic, 8 daytime settings, and 2 night vision settings. Now, I don't run night vision, I don't have nods, I don't have an IR laser, any of that kind of stuff. But if you did, it'll work for that. That's pretty cool. It takes a CR123 battery, which, as far as those watch style batteries go, is a pretty common one, easy to find. But the thing is, you're not going to have to find it that often. The battery life on this thing is incredible. It's 50,000 hours at a medium setting, which is about what you're going to run it at most of the time. 50,000 hours is basically the equivalent of 5 years. You can run this optic for 5 years before you're going to have to change the battery. One of the other reasons for that being is that it has what Sig calls Motak Technology. And what that is the optic shuts off automatically after a certain amount of time not moving, being inactive. But the moment you pick it up and move it, that thing turns on. So I have never looked into this and not seen a red dot. Not sure if you can see it through the camera there, but it is on absolutely immediately. And the cool thing about that, if your thing is set up for home defense, you're already going to be very, under a lot of pressure and stress if you have to grab this and use it for what it's designed for. The last thing that I want to have to do is to have to turn an optic on, have to find the brightness setting that I want or anything like that in the moment that I need to use this thing. I want to be able to grab it, rack it, and be good to go, and be able to look through my optic and use my weapon. And so the Motak makes that possible. It shuts it off to preserve battery life, but as soon as you grab the thing, your red dot is on and you have an effective sighting system ready to go. That is a really nice feature. And it's one of the reasons that I ended up going with the same optic on my second AR. It's just something that makes sense. Now, there are definitely more expensive, some would say better optics out there. Aimpoints are fantastic, but that's $1,000 piece of glass versus 120 bucks. The other thing that is really a time-tested, proven battle optic is like an EOTech holographic. But an EOTech doesn't have that Motak kind of thing. You have to turn your EOTech on if you're going to use it. So that's just one more thing that you have to fiddle with in an emergency that I don't want to have to deal with. So besides that, it's got a 2 MOA dot, which MOA is minute of angle. And what that means, 1 MOA is equal to 1 inch at 100 yards. So a 2 MOA dot at a target 100 yards away, the dot will cover up 2 inches of that target. Now with the red dot, most of the time you're going to be shooting probably within 100 yards. I have found these optics to be perfectly accurate for what I need them for. And if you want to shoot farther, on this rifle, I plan to get the Sig Juliet 3 Micro. It's a 3x magnifier. It's going to mount right on here behind the optic and over my iron sights. And it's been out of stock for a while, so I haven't been able to get it just yet, but as soon as it is here, we'll do a video on that as well. So this Sig red dot has push buttons, positive and negative, plus minus, for increasing or decreasing your brightness settings. Now you're going to find in the daytime that you want your setting pretty bright to be able to pick up your dot. But you're going to want to think about that when you come home at night. Maybe turn the lights off and look through it and decrease your setting after the range time so that if you do have to pick it up in the middle of the night, it's not going to be so bright that all you see is dot. You don't want that. You want it to be a clear, crisp, small dot that you can aim through. But you also got to think about if you have a weapon mounted light, that's also going to increase the brightness. So it's something you want to play with, you know. You want to check it out in different brightness settings, and you're probably going to use different settings at the range versus leaving it set up for home defense. That's what I've found. I have found a pretty happy medium between basically 1 and 2 brightness settings where I can, you know, lower it by 1 when I get home from the range, up by 1 when I go out to shoot. And that's worked really well for me. It's just something that you should remember to do so that you have an accurate dot there when you need it. Besides that, it's got turrets for both windage and elevation. The cool thing about these, they have little caps on them. You unscrew that cap, and if you can see that line on the top of it, you turn it over upside down, and you actually use that to adjust your knob. It has half MOA clicks for both windage and elevation. Super easy to zero these. I have a little trick. I mean, everybody knows about it, but it's just something I recommend. Start with a laser bore sight. Throw this down the bore of your weapon. It is shaped just like a 223 5.56 cartridge, and it's a laser pointer, and it'll point a laser right out your barrel. Shine that, you know, somewhere in your house, down a hallway, whatever is the farthest distance that you can, and then adjust your windage and elevation until your 2 dots come together. Now, that's not going to be perfectly zeroed. You're still going to want to go to the range, use targets, and zero your rifle or your AR pistol the normal way. But that's going to get you very close to where it should really only take you a shot or two to get it perfectly zeroed. Now, backup iron sights. This is something that is also very important in my opinion. Just in case your battery dies, in case you didn't pay attention to it, or in case, you know, if, you know, stuff really hits the fan and your optic goes down for some reason, you still need a way to sight your weapon. So I recommend that everybody run backup iron sights. This is something that it just makes sense to do it. Now it's going to cost you some more money. A quality pair of backup iron sights can be about $100. On this rifle, I'm running the Sig backup iron sights. I've got a whole Sig Sauer sighting system, basically. Sig Sauer sighting system. Say that 10 times fast. But Sig Romeo 5, Sig backup iron sights, and I'm going to get the Sig Juliet 3 micro magnifier for it. I've been impressed with Sig's quality, and they've held zero and they've done great. But make sure you zero your iron sights as well. And when you do that, if you are going to use a laser bore sighter, turn down the brightness all the way on your optic first so that you only see one dot out of the barrel and not two. And you can use that laser to sight these in. Again, like I said, go to the range, make sure it's perfectly zeroed, and make sure it's zeroed for the range you're going to be using it at. I zero mine not at I don't zero them at 500 yards because that's not what these are set up for. If you have to shoot at someone at 500 yards, that is not self-defense. So just keep that in mind. Zero it for the ranges that you're going to use your weapon at. But in binary mode is where the real fun is. That is a high rate of fire right there. So the Sig Romeo 5 comes in a package like this. It's a nice box. If that's important to you, some people like a nice box. It comes with, some foam in it. You get your manual. You get two mounts. You get this low mount. And I wouldn't use this on an AR-15. Say you're running an AK with an Ultimac rail or something. This might be the mount you want to use for that. I'm dropping parts. But I use the high mounts because that is what is absolute co-witness with my sights. So therefore, if my red dot goes down, my sights, I can co-witness right through the glass. It's like it's not even there. Besides that, it has this bikini style cover on it. Keeps it nice and protected. It comes with a cloth for cleaning your lenses. And it comes with a tool. And you can use this for adjusting your windage elevation, but also this end for, tightening the mount to your rail. So that's basically what you get with it. Fairly basic, but it's everything you need. And then you're good to go. For 120 bucks, you can go take your rifle and shoot it at the range. Now, for another $1,000, you can make it look like this and have a weapon that is exactly what you want, which is pretty sweet. But the first thing you need is an optic. And I do very much recommend iron sights. You should have backup iron sights just in case. Now, I haven't had either of my Sig Romeo 5s go down ever. The battery life is outrageous. The chance that I'll ever need my iron sights is very low. But just in case, you want to have them there because, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen at the worst time. So make sure that you're prepared. Make sure that you still have a sighting system if that goes down. And you'll still have an effective weapon if you ever have to use it. Now, just because I run the Sig sights and the Sig optics on mine doesn't mean that there aren't other great ones. Like I said, EOTech, Aimpoint, those are fantastic. And if I had $1,000 to spend on an optic, maybe I'd run one of those. But I really do want this channel to be a place where you guys can come and get solid information on parts, equipment, guns that are very high value, meaning that they're not cheap, but they are affordable. For what you get, you're going to have something that will treat you well, that's going to last, be effective, and be reliable for a price point that most people can handle. And that's what the Romeo 5 does for you. It is affordable. To me, 120 bucks for probably the most important thing that you have on your weapon, that's affordable to me. I've spent 4 times that much just on the trigger on this one, Spent more than that on the rail on this one. Spent more than that on the light. Spent the same amount on the backup iron sights. So to me, 120 bucks for your primary sighting system is a very good deal. Now, there are cheaper optics out there as well. Most of them suck, just so you know. I did a lot of research before. Like I said, I bought the one when I got this rifle. But I wanted to make sure that I got something good. Did a lot of research. Basically, everyone kind of agrees, for the money, this is the best optic you're going to get. If you go cheaper than 100 bucks, what you get is not going to be something that you can trust your life to. So you can take that as you want. That's my opinion, but it's an opinion I've made by doing a lot of research, hearing a lot of other people's opinions. You know, that's $120 for this optic is a fantastic price. And so I recommend it to just about everybody. So I've talked about this optic. I've talked about what I think about it, which, you know, I'm impressed by it for sure. Let's talk about why a red dot though. Now, the kind of optic you choose is going to have to do with what your plan is to do with your weapon. The most popular optics for AR style weapons these days are LVPOs or LPVOs. Light power variable optic, which is basically a scope, generally 1:6. Now they make 1:8s, 1:10s, where you can change the power, you know, so you do have magnification if you want to reach out a little farther with it. Now, you can do that with a red dot too, but you have to use a magnifier, which is, like I said, what I'm going to end up getting for this one. LVPOs are good, but your eye relief is not going to be as good as it is with a red dot. With a red dot, you have unlimited eye relief, meaning that there's no scope shadow. No matter where your eye is, you know, I have this thing mounted fairly far forward, say that 3 times fast. And I can pick up that red dot perfectly, no matter where my eye is. If I have to shoot offhand, I can pick it up perfectly. That's a great thing about red dots. Quick target acquisition. You can pull this thing up to your eye, you are immediately on target. You know, as long as you practice with it and you know how to pull your weapon up to your face the way you need to, you're going to be able to get a sight picture and be able to put target, you know, shots on target. The other cool thing about a red dot is, at least a decent red dot, is that it doesn't matter so much where your face is. That dot shouldn't move around a whole lot. It should be on target basically no matter what. So, like I said, fast target acquisition. That's what red dots are for. That's why it's my choice for home defense. It's what makes sense for what these are set up for. If I have to be quick, I can look through that. I know exactly where my round is going to hit very quickly and very easily without having to adjust, you know, where my face is in relation to the optic or anything else. So that's what makes it work for me. That's what makes it work for most people. For ARs, it's basically either LVPOs or red dots or holographic like an EOTech. I'm not going to go into the difference between those today. They basically do the same thing, they just do it a little differently. They're fantastic as well. Holographic or red dot is going to be the fastest way to acquire a sight picture. And so that's why I use it. And it has worked great for me. I am excited about getting the magnifier for that one. I want to see how much farther out I can, you know, stretch it and be accurate. That'll be an exciting thing for me to try, and as soon as I have that, I will bring it to you guys and do a video on that. But in the meantime, I am putting my money somewhere else. What I've got in front of me here are AK magazines. So, I've got a box of 7.62 by 39 steel-cased AK-47 AKM variant ammunition. So fairly soon here we will have an AK on the channel. It is a Romanian imported AK, and I'm very excited about that. It's not cheap though. AKs used to be cheap. They are no longer cheap. So I put some money down on that. It's going to take a little while to pay the thing off, but as soon as I do, that's going to be the new exciting thing that we'll be able to showcase on here. And eventually I'll have the magnifier for that. I've got a ton of stuff coming. So I'm excited to bring you guys more content. Like I said, please comment, like, share, Tell me what kind of optics you run. Tell me if you agree with me about the Romeo 5. I know a lot of people do. Tell me if you think I'm a poor for running the Romeo 5 and that anybody that doesn't spend $1,000 on an optic is an idiot. Tell me whatever you think. I'd love to hear from you guys. I try to get back to all the comments that I see, and I appreciate anybody interacting with us. So, from Sawtooth Tactical, I'm George. Stay strapped or get clapped.